Welcome to Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, nonprofit home video and artwork creations. In this particular video, we interview dome or octagonal building structure located in the 12th horizontal geographic globe Earth land surface line. Now, this African continent as reviewed with satellite imagery, where in the book of first chapter, third verse, is said to Jerusalem, which is located in the land of Judah. Any other name but Jerusalem, King James Bible, in the 400-year-old world religion, we talk about 11 King James of England, he appointed $72 to fly to the Isaiah 19 pyramids. Things 11. Now, 11 of ancient Judaism ruled over Jerusalem located in Judea. However, when we look at Genesis 4, created by the European Gentile nation, they illegally changed the name of the 12 African continent tribes, in which we see if we ever view the African south north and draw 12 horizontal white lines on land surface, African continent. If we view them with satellite imagery, we will see nothing but Africa living in each of the 12 horizontal land surface lines. This is where we come up with the term in which I call the 12 African continent tribes, in which the biblical African lines 11 geographic continent land surface line upon the globe. That places Judah, the land of Judah, 11 African northeast African continent line. So that's where we find 1819 Africa of the line thinks 11. But if we, of ancient Judah, which was the Nad and theological race of Gentile nations, as they created the 400-year King James Bible, the Afro-American Neighborhood Church. So as we look at this, 11 African geographic land surface line image Sphinx. Okay, before we even zoom in with satellite imagery, as we view the view our continent from outer space, as it appears upon the blue bar shape. So as we look at the 11 geographic African continent land surface line, in which we've aligned from south to north horizontally, the African continent, we will see African line things of Genesis 9 chapter 8. Ethiopian line things that spoke the Islamic Aramaic D scroll language, in which the mistranslated King James copies from. So if we look at Arab view internet geographic 11, we're going to see a yellow desert area of sand. Now this is looking at the African continent, northeast Africa from space. We see a yellow triangular desert area of sand. In the middle of this yellow triangular desert area of sand, we see a dark U shape, okay, in the center of a sand triangular area. Now, this is a geographic African continent 11 line area. We see in Africa, the Sphinx, in Egypt, the 1919 Giza pyramids. And take a photograph as you point at the Sphinx face as he faces east toward the rising sun, or the biblical holy hydrogen light of creation that existed in the black outer regions of space around 1-1. Biblical light that created. So this is the 5 billion year old world being created in your old sun tone. This is Psalms 8 tone, and it's the Sphinx 11 scripture where we see on this written upon all the ancient Egyptian temple walls. So this, okay, has been discovered by Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, as we ever view the northeast African continent 11 geographic. So this would be exposing the white man or theologically based racism that originally started the early United States government pilgrims in trading boats. So in black hats, coats, and shoes, left Europe, crossed the water, the Indians off of the Canadian on horseback that was born arrows. So the English pilgrims in black hats, tights. Now it's connected to 22 European explorer named Christopher Columbus. So we go back to 1492, the year 1492. We see white people coming to America from Europe. Ships. Now this is Chris Columbus from Europe, originally with the English pilgrims later, that started the early 13 colonies. Right? They was in black hats, coats, and tights, modern dress code of the same face Israelites in which we see praying at the Western Wall. Okay? This is where we read that the 16-man transatlantic slave trade, right, a few years ago, means in trading boats shipped black-skinned descendants of the 11. So this is looking at Africa from our space. Men unto the African pyramids in right? So this is where Ralph Smith of Chicago, Illinois, non-profit home video and artworks has discovered. The Africans of ancient Judaism face image is upon the area view African continent. If we draw 200 white lines from South Africa to north and go back in outer space and look at those white lines, 12 white lines, you're going to see nothing but black people or black tribes living each of the 12 African continents on white lines, which I call the original African continent tribes, in which the African lion thinks 11, Genesis 48 birth speaks of, as the Ethiopian lion thinks of the tribe. He ruled over all of the 12 African tribes, from Judea, Jerusalem, Giza, Gaza, Palestine, Ashkelon, and Gath. Now, as this Sphinx was in the 400-year-old mistranslated Bible, in theological racism by the European nations that originally started the early United States government. It's easy to see if you are versed with puzzles. You can put together to form a picture of the ancient African continent viewed 11 geographic land surface line, where we see a black African lion face within a yellow desert triangular Egyptian headdress. Explains area on the northeast Africa where the Isaiah 19 pyramids are. They appear in the African land surface line in which we're drawn across the African continent. As the first chapter 30 is saying, let us go to Jerusalem, which the book of Ezra, saying, let us go up to Jerusalem, which is located in the land, and build the house of the Lord God. Remember, you look at the name change of the African continent tribological racism. This is 400 years when the Bible was being created by you, that started the early United government as pilgrims in trading boats as from Europe across the water, and they kicked for Canada on horseback. So this is the Gentile nation that the Bible was talking about as the 10 horns of Daniel, which took over the biblical Holy Land. So note of it. It's a full circle. We come full circle to the European of the African continent. Remember, the word backwards is led. Living evil European people that denied the African Sphinx in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramid, a black man's face of body, as the black man thinks of ancient Judaism. Now, when we do African continent from outer space, satellite imagery, we desert yellow triangular sand area that has a dark U shape in the African Sphinx of Giza, Ethiopia, and Jerusalem. Now this is way before we have the North African pyramids in northeast African continent land geographic 11th line. If we zoom in to the pyramid, we see from outer space a yellow desert triangular area representing the real Egyptian headdress. And in the center of this yellow area in northeast Africa from outer space, we see a U shape representing the face. So when I show you on my video that it's balanced to yellow, it's a high contrast yellow, which distorts the African Sphinx face within the yellow triangular headdress in the 11th geographic line. So once we do this, we see that the African Sphinx was taken above the atmospheric regions of planet Earth in the book of Genesis 49:8. Now remember, the European Gentile nation that starts early United, they also started the 1609 transatlantic slave trade. It's a full circle. You can't get out of of deception in which the Gentile nations carried out within the 400-year-old mistranslated King James, which is read in every Afro-American church today, in every Afro-American neighborhood church. It's a Bible lie of the European Gentile nations. And so, as we look at the area of the African continent, Sphinx 11, we are reconnecting this book in the 400-year-old mistranslated King James Bible that's very Afro-American. That's the book of Genesis. Alright? Genesis 49 chapter and 8 verse. The legal name change, remember, we are looking at the legal name change of the continent tribe that was carried out 400 years ago by the European Gentile nations, 1611 King James of England. Appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to fly to the 12th geographic African continent land surface line, which is the African Giza Sphinx, black man face upon a line body. And the 12th line is the V-shaped piece of land the news media referred to. Okay, so that 12th line is upon the continent. You've fallen off the North African continent into the water. So that's where the 12th line is. That's why Jerusalem and Judea is the 11th and 12th line on the African continent. So make a note of that. Now, the news media was part of the European Gentile nations. Social programming. The news media referred to the V-shaped piece of land. So you're looking at my video, you're going to see the blue bar-shaped earth, the blue basketball-shaped earth. You're going to see the huge African continent in the middle. All right? Now you're going to see to the right of the African continent coming from the top, called the sea. Now this is the blue bar-shaped the African continent and a thin strip of water to the right. That's the Red Sea. Okay, now the Red Sea, once you cross it, you have the V-shaped piece of land. You say, what? Yeah, this is how the man is lying to black people and the Afro-Americans. They learned about the V-shaped piece of land. So, if we go back to the V-shaped land as being up after the third verse, then all that disappears. You saying, what? Yeah. I'll open up the book of Ezra, chapter 3rd verse. It says, let us go up to Jerusalem, located in the land of Judah, build the house of the Lord God. Remember, you say, oh, I finally get your point. The Bible lie is deceiving 100 million Afro-Americans in every Afro-American church. By the European Gentiles that took over the 11th and 12th geographic African continent line. So the 11th line is where the North African pyramids are places on the lion's body, called the lion thinks of the tribe of Judah. Over all the 12 African continents, all right, before they was illegally racism, by the 16th, when 72 Hebrew scholars, to fly to the 11th and 12th geographic African continent land surface line and study Islamic Aramaic, the language of the African continent, of African continent. Now look at the Sphinx 11. You say, oh, I see it on your video. Blew up the African continent, right? So in the 11th line, right, we see the address and the U shape as a Sphinx face. You say, oh, but the 12th line is falling off the North African continent in the water. You say, oh, I see your point. So what's at the line? That's what the news media tried to say. A shaped piece of land exists across the Red Sea from Africa into Jerusalem, but all face. You say, what? Because Lorel Smith and Charles Illinois are going to show you that if you blow up the African continent, you blow it up. Don't just look at it, just blow it up on YouTube or cell phones. You say, oh, I'm talking about this in the 11th geographic line, way before we zoom into it. So, now what? So that's chapter 3rd verse. It says, let us go up to Jerusalem, which is the 12th line, falling off the African continent into the water. And the 11th line is Judah. The African line thinks of Judah. That we now see couched down upon the Isaiah 1919 Giza Sphinx. Now, the original aliens that transported the Sphinx above the atmospheric regions of planet Earth did so in Ezekiel's Old Testament glowing will in the will like your foes. This is why the glory was systematically snatched away from 12 African continent tribes. The original 12 African continent tribes in which the black African things under the Isaiah 1919 originally ruled over. This is why when I say this racism of the European nations is responsible for the 1609 slave trade, where Africans were shipped on the 11th and 12th geographic land surface line. The Islamic Aramaic Dead Sea Scrolls things in front of the Isaiah 19 Giza pyramid surface. So what is the 11th and 12th? Upon the African continent is Judea and Jerusalem. Make a note of that if you're a Bible thumper. Now what do we have? We have, if we see a review African continent, we're going to get into the age that originally created the first elongated hidden Africa. That was black men with long pieces of hair. All right. They no longer exist upon the surface of planet Earth. This was in the book of Genesis, which was copied ancient Babylonian style pyramid civilization of Ham. Oh, so are we looking at a forgery in the Bible when it talks about who created Africa? That's right. Who did this illegal forgery of the English kingdom, but it's now read in every Afro church? It was controlled 75% of the gold, diamond, and oil resources. So as I educate all the ministers in America, every last one of them, black, blue, purple, pink, Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, re-educate every Afro-American minister in a whole, as he shows the giant Sphinx at amount of space, 11 geographic land surface line within a desert yellow triangular Royal Egyptian headdress era. We see a dark U shape for a face. So this is the Bible we exposed lie, which is the European Gentile nations lie, as they took over Africa, Northeast Africa, 11th and 12th geographic land surface line. So if we go to Jerusalem today, all right, we won't find Judah. You saying what? Now let's go back to Ezra 1st chapter 3rd verse. Judah is the black African Sphinx in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramid. All the 12 can constant traffic from South Africa to North. So this is, if you draw 12 horizontal white lines, you see the Sphinx as from satellite imagery upon as a yellow desert triangular Royal Egyptian hips area. That's in the 1919 area view land surface upon the African continent. So the problem is that the 12th record was illegally written in theological racism. Afro-Americans did not come to terms with the theological racism of European Gentile nations that they are now reading in a 40-year-old mistranslated King James Bible that's read in every Afro-American church. So if you have